Hello, Mike Ako, and good afternoon. Mahalo for joining us today for the joint AEN Water Land Agenda hearing on, what is today, Wednesday, March 22nd, 1 p.m. And if we have any tech problems and we have to stop the hearing, we'll resume on Friday at 1 p.m. here in room 224. And because of our 90-minute time limit, we'll be limiting the testimony to 2 minutes. Okay. We'll start off with HB 441 HD1 relating to climate equity, appropriates funds for the development of a database and data portal from data sources detailed in the May 2022 report on social vulnerability to climate change in Hawaii under certain conditions. And first up, we have Leah Laramie from the State of Hawaii Climate Change Mitigation and Adaptation Commission.
Good afternoon.
Hi, aloha.
Aloha, chairs and members of the committee. Mahalo for having me here. Leah Laramie with the Climate Change Mitigation and Adaptation Commission. Stand in strong support of this bill. It builds off of the work conducted by the commission in collaboration with the to really address some serious issues that we have, especially with looking at federal tools that are looking at equity. So this is really going to help us as a state address those mapping tools on the federal side and be able to apply better for federal funding.
Thank you, Leah. Next is the Department of Health.
Good afternoon. I'm Diana Felton. I'm the toxicologist with the Hawaii Department of Health. We stand in strong support of this bill. Will help us with our work, be more efficient and more effective in underserved communities, and also help us apply for and receive more federal funding to support these types of projects. Happy to answer any questions. Thank you for having me.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Scott Glenn with OPSD. Okay, thank you. Thanks, Marianas. Next is Jody Robinson. In support. Charles Ice for the Energy and Climate Action Committee. In support. Arwen Revere with Wild Kids. In support. Paul Bernstein with Climate Future Forum. In support. Chris Caulfield with Imua Alliance. In support. Andrew Crossland opposed. Virginia Tincher support. All the following are in support: Will Karen, Barbara Best, Shannon Rudolph, Dana Chiave, Helen Cox, James McKay, Molly Whiteley, and Leanne Wheeler. Anyone else wishing to testify on 441? Members, questions?
Yes.
Leah?
Yes, this is an appropriation measure. So just a question. I understand that the governor has supported and had reported that there would be, was it $100 million initially for climate change as well? Do you know if that, where the House, if they included in the budget? Because I understand, I think the designation for his announcement that the monies would go to the Climate Change Commission.
Yeah, no monies have been allocated in the budget for the commission.
Oh, okay. But in the event at the final stage, then you would probably have enough to cover with all the bills that are floating around that's moving along, including the study.
I'm not sure of all the bills, but this study would definitely be a priority for the commission if funding was allocated. But as it stands, there's zero money allocated towards the commission within the state budget.
As of this point, then.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Mahalo.
Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you. And a question for Mary Alice, OPSD.
you, Chair.
So Mary Alice, does the department anticipate any potential significant impacts on housing and rental and hotel industry?
We certainly want to look at how climate change affects social inequality and income inequality. And we want to work with the University of Hawaii to develop that kind of a data portal that will help us in providing better recommendations to the legislature on these, kind of forward, future-looking issues that are very important to the state. We want to do everything we can to keep our working age adults who, may not be making, enough to buffer the effects of climate change, but we want to keep them here and keep them from moving to other states. So this kind of data will be helpful for that.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, moving on to HB 615, HD1, relating to restrictions on ag uses and activities, clarifies that any provision in a private agreement contained in a conveyance of land recorded on or before July 8, 2003, that have since expired but have not been renewed and recorded in the Bureau of Conveyances are prohibited from restricting bona fide ag uses and activities on ag land. First up is Department of Ag. Thank you very much. Next is OPSD, Mary Alice. Oh, sorry. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. And Brian Miyamoto from Hawaii Farm Bureau.
Thank you, Chair. The Hawaii Farm Bureau was done on its written testimony in support.
Thank you, Brian.
Thank you.
Anyone else wishing to testify on this measure? Members, any questions? Question for Brian, Hawaii Farm Bureau. So can you expound a little bit more on the significant impact that Gentleman Farms have had on the overall cost of ag land value?
Thank you, Chair. Brian Miyamoto, Hawaii Farm Bureau. Gentleman Farms interfere. They're taking ag land away from agriculture. Not only are they taking productive ag lands because they're not producing anything on these gentleman farms, they're also impacting those farms that are possibly neighbors by complaining, and this is one of the core issues of this bill, the right to farm. On agricultural lands, there are things that non-farmers don't like. Gentleman farms, they want the open space, they want the rural ambiance, they want, some of maybe even the policies, the tax breaks and stuff, but they don't want agriculture. So when they're there with the neighbor doing agriculture, they tend to complain. Mm-hmm. So there's a right to farm issue that we're dealing with here. So we're just trying to protect the real farmers, allowing them to farm. Gentleman farms, the more they pop up, the more we risk of less agriculture. Right now, the legislature is supporting things like farm to school, farm to food bank, increase in ag production. Gentleman farms are taking us in the other direction.
And what is the impact on the value of ag land? What has been
the property value can be raised. Mm-hmm. So again, making it unaffordable for farmers.
Right.
So there's so many negative impacts of gentleman farming, and we appreciate the legislature's support on addressing this issue because gentleman farms should not be in agricultural land. That's why the Farm Bureau has come before this body suggesting let's look at a rural designation. We don't have it here on a wall. We don't utilize it on a wall, but it could be the buffer or where agriculture is not a requirement, where it actually could be where maybe gentleman farms and other non-agriculture uses. In the ag district, our position is agriculture is the primary use for that land. Everything is secondary and accessory. So if we look at some of that lands, it can serve as buffers still with the urban core and with other designations, but farming is not a requirement, and that's where more of the lifestyle farmers could operate versus the livelihood farmers, which is what we want on agricultural lands.
Okay, thank you, Brian. Okay, moving on.
Yeah, Chair,
Yes, any questions?
it's rather interesting because this particular bill really affects the counties in a sense. And we have not received any communications, is that correct? Any testimonies from the counties?
No.
Yeah, because, we're talking about the use of agriculture lands, which is under their purview. That's very interesting, and it is disturbing, and, I support the comments made by the Farm Bureau, and as well as your question. Just, can I also, with having said that, our colleague to my left, Senator Richards, there's quite a bit of, in his district in North Kohala, where we have the Kohala Estates, as well as the other larger one, Kohala Ranch, which are pretty much 20-acre ag parcels. And it would be interesting to note how much of the ag activity goes out, because I understand, and it seems like in my travels in your district previously as the senator, that it seems like there's pretty much a cow and a horse. And I think, the counties allow them to do that without the agricultural aspect of providing food products to make sure that we have sustainability to continue our farm to school programs. But it's something that I guess, Chair, we need to have the counties on top of this issue with us as well.
Chair, can I respond?
Sure.
Thank you, and thank you, Senator Noy, on that. Yeah, the parcels that you're referring to at one time did have cattle ranching on them, and that was part of the agreement. The homeowners association chose to remove the ranching, and when they did that, they also removed the agricultural tax break, which shocked the homeowners. And
Okay.
because they had no idea what the impact was going to be. But it was fair to the county because they weren't doing food production anymore. And that is a concern going forward. We have to support, what Brian was talking about, the the neighbors of agriculture. They want everything except agriculture. They don't want the noise, they don't want the odor, they don't want the dust, they don't want them starting early or working late, and that's agriculture. So this is a thing that will be ongoing, and we're going to have to deal with coming forward.
So with that said, then if they refuse or they haven't now received the ag exemptions or the real property on the real property side, but the designation is still agriculture, then I assume.
They do, but the Big Island has been working very diligently on defining what bona fide agriculture is. And the real property tax, they are, I won't say they're perfect because it's tough, but they're pretty good at ferreting out who is not bona fide agriculture.
Okay, so going back to the rezoning aspect, then I guess I assume the County of Hawaii, as an example, has not updated their general plan. So
No, it's in the
still
process.
assigned-
No, it's being in the process of being updated right now.
Okay, so are you aware, or do you know if they are going to be put into another category outside of agriculture?
That was part of the conversations with the planning director, Zendo Kern, but no decisions have been made.
Is there anything that the state can do in providing policies?
I think we should have a good talk story about it going forward.
Because if they're not updating their plans as well, and this is statewide effort, perhaps, for the Ag Committee as well, and we can look forward to doing something maybe next year for clarification, because I think there's too many of those issues. It's going to be interesting how many other islands, or, the neighbor islands as well as here, who has the agricultural designation, but not, not having made those changes, whether it's rural or whatever.
Yeah,
I think we got our job cut out for us.
yeah,
Thank you,
I
Chairs.
agree.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, so moving on to HB 837 HD1, establishes a green infrastructure objectives, policies, and priority guidelines for state facility systems, infrastructure, transit projects, and other areas in the Hawaii State Planning Act to improve the quality of life for residents and visitors. Adds definition of green infrastructure, requires the Office of Planning and Sustainable Development, in partnership with the Greenhouse Gas Sequestration Task Force, to submit a report to the legislature making recommendations for implementing the green infrastructure objectives, policies, and priority guidelines. And first up, we have Leah Laramie from the Hawaii Climate Change Mitigation and Adaptation Commission.
Chairs again, Leah Laramie with the Climate Change Mitigation and Adaptation Commission. Just wanted to, stand on our testimony and support, but also, green infrastructure is going to be really key in being able to address climate change adaptation as well as mitigation. They serve both purposes. Also, have huge benefits for our community, especially when it comes to social equity. So mahalo for the opportunity to testify.
Thank you, Leah. DLNR. Thank you, Heather. Mary Alice from OPSD.
Thank you, Chair, Vice Chairs, and members. We, of course, support this measure, but I did want to offer comments. The Greenhouse Sequestration Task Force, which was placed in the office in 2017, hasn't been funded since 2018, and we really do need a little extra support to keep that important effort going. So you'll see in our testimony that we did ask for additional language in the measure to add a position and a reasonable appropriation.
Thank you, Mary Alice.
Thank you.
Logan Lee with the Climate Future Forum in support. Ted Boland, the Hawaii Reef and Ocean Coalition Climate Protectors Hawaii.
Thank you, Chair Gabbard, Chair Inouye, Vice Chair Richards, Vice Chair Elefante, Ted Boland for the Hawaii Reef and Ocean Coalition and the Climate Protectors Hawaii in strong support of this measure. I was a Deputy Attorney General for 15 years representing the Department of Health on water pollution, and I know how important it is to conserve water and not have it run off and pollute the ocean. So these measures, green measures, green infrastructure is a range of measures that use plant or soil systems, including trees, permeable pavement, or other permeable surfaces or substrates, stormwater harvest and reuse, or landscaping to conserve water and reduce flows to sewer systems or to surface waters. So these are, I think, intelligent measures, if adopted, that would help to control the flow of water off the land and prevent pollution and save money at the same time. So I strongly support this bill. Available for questions. Appreciate the opportunity to testify. Thank you.
Thank you, Ted. Virginia Tincher is in support. Douglas Perrine is in support. Dylan Armstrong in support. Molly Whiteley in support. Anyone else wishing to testify on this measure? Members, any questions? Yes, Senator Awa?
What kind of trees are we talking about planting here?
Who do you want to address that to?
Sorry, I came in late. Is there any?
Leah?
Aloha. This might be a question more for Office of Planning, but
Thank you.
the real
You have to state your name.
Oh, sorry.
who you're-
Aloha, Leah Laramie, Climate Change Mitigation and Adaptation Commission. Really looking at the right tree in the right place with the right care. So we're very conscientious of not planting any invasive trees. Really working closely with both state and counties to make sure that the trees that are put in place are both the appropriate tree for this space as well as for our natural resources.
Would it be possible to look at trees we can get, like eat, we can fruit or something like that? Because plenty of trees that we put, this is a pet peeve of mine, but I look all around the place with state planning and projects, it's just rubbish trees.
Yeah.
So if we get some stuff out of it.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's definitely something we actually have our urban forester here from DLNR and something that she's very passionate about and really looking at the importance of food trees.
Okay. Thank you. Thanks for answering that.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay, moving on to HB 995 HD2 clarifies the decision-making process for the Land Use Commission adoption of county maps and designation of important ag lands, repeals the provision for farm dwelling and employee housing on important ag lands, and adopts a new provision for farm cluster housing as an incentive for the designation of lands as important ag lands. And first up, we have the State Land Use Commission. Dan Orodenker, he's has submitted comments. Department of Ag.
Good afternoon, chairs, vice chairs, members of the committee. Sharon Hurd, Department of Agriculture. The department stands in support of this measure, and otherwise we defer to the Land Use Commission and the Office of Planning and Sustainable Development.
Thank you, Sharon. Next is OPSD.
Good afternoon, chairs, vice chairs, members of the committee. My name is Katia Balaciano. I'm with the Office of Planning and Sustainable Development. We strongly support this bill. We had submitted it as an admin proposal based on our experience with the Land Use Commission, and we feel that these measures would help streamline the process such that more lands would be designated as important ag lands. If you have any questions, I'm available to answer them for you.
Thank you. Next is DBED. The director from DBED is in support. Anyone from DBED?
Chairs, Vice Chair Scott Murakami from the Director's Office.
Oh, Scott. Brian Miyamoto, Hawaii Farm Bureau.
Thank you, chairs, vice chairs, members of the committees. Brian Miyamoto here on behalf of the Hawaii Farm Bureau. Hawaii Farm Bureau is in support of this measure. We appreciate the administration taking a look at the IOs, specifically the incentive dealing with housing. As the city and County of Honolulu went through some of the IO mapping processes, some of our farmers were concerned that if their lands are designated as IAL, they may essentially lose their homes or their ability to stay in their homes because of the occupancy requirements that's in current IO incentive law. Basically, it states that they need to be actively farming. The farmer and immediate family need to be actively farming. Now, we agree that somebody needs to be farming, but it's not always a case where the farmer and their entire family are actively farming. Sometimes the spouse will need a second job, a job outside of farming, maybe helps on the weekends or on a part-time basis. So we think this will help clarify that particular incentive for designation of IL. So we do ask for your support for this measure. Thank you for the opportunity to testify.
Thank you. Okay, anyone else wishing to testify on HB 995? Members, any questions?
Yes, Chair. Land Use Commission or Office of Planning, in the Land Use Commission's testimony, it did say that the issues are being considered in the courts that was filed by the City and County of Honolulu. With regards to important agricultural lands, do you or Brian an update of what's happening with this issue?
Hello, Katia Balaciano, Office of Planning and Sustainable Development. I do know that the matter is in the courts. It was the Land Use Commission had remanded the proposal from the city back to the city, and the city is contesting that. However, it's OPSD's position that the legislature still has the opportunity to improve upon the regulations that currently exist. And the reason, in part, it was remanded because there was confusion in the regulations. And so we believe that the way it's drafted today it will clarify the procedures associated with how these important ag lands are processed. We believe that the legislature can act on that now, regardless of where the matter stands with the courts.
Okay, good. Thanks for clarification and an update. Thank you very much. It's interesting to note, though, that we have not gotten any opinions from the Attorney General's office because of the court actions. Thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you.
Yeah, Chair.
Senator Richards?
Yeah, I'm not sure who this question is for, but in here in the bill, I talked about for the farm housing clusters on lots that are only 10 acres or more. I don't know if this is directed to DOA or perhaps to you. Could you comment on that? My concern is if we have a smaller lot, do we have existing homes? So I don't know if this question is for you.
I believe that this is if there are new homes that are being proposed and minimum acreage. When we talk about clustering homes, that means that they're closer together, the infrastructure is closer together, and you generally need a certain minimum lot size to accommodate that. The county zoning is, usually a minimum of 2 acres or 5 acres in Honolulu for agricultural lands. So if it goes below a certain size, you can't really cluster the homes any longer. You're really only allowed 1 or 2 homes based on the zoning that is in place. I don't know if that answers your question.
Sort of.
Okay.
And that's why I'm just concerned because we need housing desperately. But I don't want to paint us into a corner with the regulation that we're trying to get around or correct. So, okay, thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you. Moving on to the next measure, HB 1182 HD2 appropriates funds to the Department of Ag for the preparation of an environmental impact statement for lessees to drill non-potable water wells on individual parcels at Panaewa Ag Park. First up, Department of Ag.
Chairs, vice chairs, members of the committee, Sharon Hurd, Department of Agriculture. The department respectfully opposes this bill. We consider appropriating public funds for an individual's use as an inappropriate use of said funds. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Next is Brian Miyamoto, Hawaii Farm Bureau.
Thank you, chairs, vice chairs, members of the committees. Brian Miyamoto here on behalf of the Hawaii Farm Bureau. We're in support of this measure. We just wanted to clarify that these farmers in Panaewa are just seeking assistance for the EIS. The actual drilling of the wells and all that other expenses will be borne by the farmers, but it is the EIS that can tend to take time, can delay, can have some of the costs may be exorbitant to the farmers. And again, once the wells are drilled, my understanding would be an asset for the state. So again, it is regulated to just the Panaewa farmers, and it is just for the EIS portion. The drilling and everything else would be borne by the farmers on these state ag park parcels. Thank you for the opportunity to testify.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to testify on HB 1182? Members, any questions?
Yeah, oh, yes, yeah, please.
Senator Aponte?
Request for Department of Ag. Thank you,
Senator.
Chair Hurd. Currently now, is water being supplied to these users in the area?
I'm going to call, I want to say yes, but I'm going to verify with my Ag Resource Management.
Sure.
Yes.
It is, okay. So from my understanding, I did hear from Mr. Miyamoto from the Farm Bureau that this would help fund for the EIS process, but it would be up to the individual lessee to come up with the drilling part. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay.
It was similar question, so
Yeah.
thank you.
Thank you.
Yep. Hang on.
Senator Richards?
Good question.
Sharon.
Senator.
Thank you, Chair. It's long been my opinion that if we're going to stand up agriculture, we have to help it. And water development is very expensive, but the other side of that is we developed agriculture. And I hear what you're saying, but though you respectfully do not support, I would respectfully ask that you would figure out a way to support water development for all agriculture, because I could see in this situation where this could be a source of water for not just one farmer, but we could create something so we're supplying a lot more farmers.
Understand. And in fact, we have taken that into consideration. We just feel, speaking to the Attorney General, our deputy, an environmental impact statement is costly. It's expensive. And there are alternatives. We could do an environmental assessment. We could do other things that would help the Pana'ewa, including waiving the environmental statement, but then you would have pushback from the other department. So we've considered it, Senator, and water is a precious commodity, and it's good that the Pana'ewa lessees are going to cover the cost of the water. In a previous testimony, the question from the board came whether or not there's a guarantee that there's water there. So we would do an environmental impact statement, and that might include the availability of the water. It might go on for a while. So it's a complicated issue. We're using public funds for a private entity, and that's the opposition. It's not that we don't support water, it's just that public funds should not be used for this purpose.
Okay, I hear what you're saying, but it's public money for a private entity for a public good. And so, thanks, Chair.
Yep, got it.
One other thing, Sharon, in this, your submitted testimony, it states that the Hawaii County Board of Water Supply, they already provide water, right, at a discounted rate, correct?
That's a yes.
Okay. And so is the department prepared to provide a comparative cost analysis between the rates of the island of Hawaii and specifically Pana'ewa Ag Park District as compared to other ag park districts? So we can just get a sense of what
It's
we're
a
dealing with?
very good question because it is competing
Yes.
costs. Yes, I understand. May I call Brian
Sure,
up?
absolutely.
Afternoon, Chairs, Brian Kyle, Department of Agriculture. The question again, sir?
You know, can the department provide like a comparative cost analysis between the rates in the Big Island at Pana'ewa Ag Park as compared to the other ag park districts on the island and statewide, actually?
Yes. We don't, however, the rates for the delivery of the water are set by various agencies, right? So in the case of a state-owned irrigation system, we, the Department of Agriculture, sets the delivery rate. In the case of this particular ag park, the rate is set by the Department of Water Supply. And similarly for ag parks that are served by other counties. So Maui Department of Water Supply would set their ag rate for the services that they do for agricultural parks. So, but we can look it up and get it to you.
Yeah, I'd just be curious to look at, yeah, and a comparison statewide as well. It's not just the Big Island, but just to get some idea. Okay, thank you.
I have a question. Yes. So with the Pana'ewa, is that considered, and I assume it is the agriculture park, similarly to the one down in Puna, Lower Puna in Pahoa, where that's an designated agriculture park?
Yes, Pana'ewa has both a ag park that is contiguous within its own boundaries, and then it also has non-ag park lands that exist on the outsides, and then it also, from my understanding, what I understand, also has fee simple ownership within that area also.
Okay, reason I ask is that I think it's for Hawaii County, the ag rates, if you're using the county's water system, is pretty much set.
It is, it's a tiered system like most of the county water systems. There's a rate for essentially if you had like a residence, and then that takes care of, I believe it's like the first 13,000 gallons or something like that. And then from there, it goes out into the agricultural use because, now you're getting water, whatever. So,
Okay, all right. Well, it's good to have data and I
Okay.
sure,
support
we can
the
get that for you.
chair's inquiry. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mahalo. Okay, Chair, I think you're up next.
Okay, thank you. We'll proceed then with HB 952 relating to natural resources. And this appropriates funds to the Department of Land and Natural Resources to address the impacts of climate change in the state. And this is 952. Office of the Governor, in support, anyone from the agencies that are familiar with this particular measure relating to natural resources on HB 952? Okay, we do have communication in support. DLNR. Good afternoon. Thanks for being here.
Good afternoon. Aloha chairs, vice chairs, members of the committee. Brian Nielsen representing Department of Land and Natural Resources. We stand on our written testimony in support, available for questions. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Hayema, James Barrows.
Chairs, members of the committee, Dan Rapcook representing James Burrows at Hawai'i, and we stand in support of House Bill 952 HD1.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, we do have communications for about 10 as well, but we did receive from Hawaii Climate Change in support. Any extent with your testimony as well? University of Hawaii, Chip Fletcher in support as well, and the Kauai Climate Action, Capture the Carbon in support, as well as Nature Conservancy in support, the Forest Industry Association as well. Individuals, we did have support communications, about 5. Is there anyone else wishes to speak to HB 952? Mr. Boland.
Thank you, Chair Noack, Chair Gabbard, Vice Chair Alfonte, and Vice Chair Richards. Ted Boland on behalf of the Climate Protectors Hawaii. This is an important bill in terms of getting some aid to DLNR to investigate climate change, which is, of course, a big issue for the group I represent. We strongly support this bill, and we urge the committees to pass it, please. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much. Anyone else wishes to speak to HB 952? DLNR, I asked an earlier question with regards to for funding with regards to climate change in the state. And earlier, I think my question or comment was with regards to the governor's declaration at one point in time about $100 million. And I understand that the recommendation was to forward those resources to the Climate Change Commission. So with that said, in the event during the end of the budget cycle or preparing to close, and if that's provided, hopefully that could be also with the climate change. I understand the monies would be directed to the Climate Change Commission. And so hopefully that would address the other agencies' work in the event that you receive those funds.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the initiatives would be to have the commission review different project proposals and then distribute that to different agencies and counties throughout the state. Some of the work that DLNR does would definitely fall under that, but it's only a small piece of the larger climate change picture. So I'm not sure if that budget would cover the entirety of this allocation. I think it was estimated at about 40 million that DLNR would need.
Okay, to at least, look at their work and studies if it, it's required. Okay, all right, we can't do much until we get into budget, I guess, finalization. So good luck.
Okay, thank you.
Mahalo.
Thank
Appreciate
you.
it.
Thank you for your work. Okay. HB 1101 relating to stormwater fees. And this exempts the state and its departments and agencies that maintain or operate a stormwater management system that is interconnected to a county's stormwater system from county stormwater user fees. DOT, aloha. Thanks for being here.
Aloha, Chair Inouye and Chair Gabbard. I'm Dre Kalili, the Deputy Director for Transportation for Harbors, and we are in strong support of this bill. Thank you for hearing it. It is one of our admin bills. And as we've been hearing the testimony in opposition to this bill in the previous two hearings, we just want to be clear that the objective, our objective is not to shirk any responsibility, but to recognize in the law that DOT takes on quite a bit of responsibility in managing stormwater infrastructure on our facilities. So every year we pay about $24 million to manage our stormwater systems. And the city and county of Honolulu is developing a fee structure, and that'll, increase our cost. And so considering that Harbors especially is completely self-funded, we don't get general funds or federal funds at the moment. We just want to make sure that we don't know what the city council is going to do with the fee structure. So we're looking for in this law for some kind of backstop. Now, after hearing all the opposition, we've come up with a proposed SD1, which we came up with after we submitted our testimony, which is why it's not attached. But we asked your committee to consider whether you're open to a cap on an annual basis for DOT in the neighborhood of about $1.5 million. And looking at the latest proposed fee structure from the city, I think that would accommodate the fees that they're looking at. But we're just looking for some backstop limit, just so we can plan and not, increase our operating costs too much.
That's a lot of money.
24 million or 1.5?
Whatever you're paying to the city.
No, so 24 million is what our operating expenses for stormwater facilities are, not what we pay to the city, just on our own.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, your obligations.
Yes.
Okay.
Our existing obligations for our own MS4 permits.
Okay, and I assume that most of those storm water, the systems are pretty much parallel or near the highways.
Highways, but Harbors has our own, airports
Harbors
has
as well.
And there are a lot of places, especially in Honolulu Harbor, where the city's stormwater system flows out into the harbor. So whatever they catch empties out in the harbor. Okay. So in light of that, that's why we're asking for some kind of control over the fee.
Sure, understanding. Thank you. Okay. Yes, sure, we'll allow it.
Okay, thank you.
Senator Elefante.
Thank you, Madam Chair. In line of the same questioning, so it's 24 million that you're paying in program fees, but right now there's no stormwater usage fee at the city and county of Honolulu. Is that correct?
That's correct.
But other counties, there's none of that stormwater utility fees that I'm aware of.
We're not aware of any either.
Okay, so this would be a backstop. Currently, you're not paying for anything now because there's no county ordinance that
we don't
says,
pay any use fees to any counties at this point.
Got it. Okay,
Right.
thank you. The 24 million is just strictly
It's like our preventative
programs that you do.
maintenance,
Got it.
cleaning, taking care of the
Understood.
outfalls. Yeah.
Thank you.
General maintenance, I
That's
guess.
correct.
Thank you, Chair.
Continual. Thank you very much. Any further questions with regards to HB 1101 to the DOT? Thank you so much. Okay. City and County of Honolulu Department of Facility Maintenance is in a position. Okay, are you on Zoom?
I am. I'm on Zoom. Can you hear me?
Don? Yes.
Yes. Yeah. Hi, good afternoon. Good afternoon, chairs, vice chairs, committee members. My name is Dawn Sefcik, Director and Chief Engineer for the Department of Facility Maintenance for the City and County of Honolulu. We stand by our written testimony in opposition of HB 1101. Well, we are in talks and negotiations with state DOT with their SD1, and we would be in support of that if that's able to be pushed through. Thanks for the time to provide testimony.
All right, thank you. Any questions of City and County while they're on Zoom? Thank you so much. Tax Foundation of Hawaii, Tom, are you on Zoom? And he sends testimony more on comments as well. We have support communications from the HUGS group, which are the Harbor Users Group, as well as Matson. In opposition, Hawaii Community Foundation. Okay, just a clarification, Matson and the Harbor Users Group are in support. Let's see. Oh. Hawaii Community Foundation in opposition, as well as comments from BOMA. Anyone here wishes to speak on that group, and an individual in opposition? Members, any questions? Or is there anyone here who wishes to speak to HB 1101? Hearing none, we'll proceed then with a resolution, SCR 1113, along with the SR 106. And this is urging the Department of Land and Natural Resources to minimize human interaction at certain locations during the coral spawning events. Okay, DLNR.
Aloha chairs, vice chairs, members of the committee, Brian Nielsen, representing Department of Land and Natural Resources. We stand on our written testimony in support of this resolution. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Ted Boland.
Thank you, Chair Noack, Chair Gabbard, Vice Chair Elefante, and Vice Chair Richards. Ted Boland on behalf of the Hawaii Reef and Ocean Coalition. Thank you, Senator Noe, for introducing this fine measure. As I think everybody knows, the coral in Hawaii are threatened, and they are critical to our shoreline protection, our fisheries, our way of life, and a lot of other things, cultural, etc. Cauliflower coral is a reef-building coral, and it spawns at a particular time of year that is predictable. And in Kahulu Bay Education Center, they have been keeping people out of the water successfully in the short period of time after the coral spawns. And the coral forms larvae that need to settle into coral reef, and they will largely die if they don't have that. So this is just a matter of keeping people out of the way from swimming, snorkeling, scuba diving, et cetera, for a little bit of time so that the coral have a chance to grow. We need to do what we can to make coral survive better, and this is one of the easy things we could do that would help. So strong support of this measure from Hawaii Reef and Ocean Coalition. Thank you for the introduction.
I have a question to
Yes.
ask with regards to the location. So does this particular coral activity is more towards, I would assume, not out in the deep areas, the deep ocean stuff, but more on the beaches or
I'm not sure.
closer to the land areas?
I'm not sure if it's also in deep areas, but I think there's certainly areas, there's cauliflower coral that grow close to land that could benefit from this. And obviously the swimmers are close to land, so that's where we could do the most good.
Okay, then I have another question, and probably discussions with DLNR as well. There have been many, I guess, contracts that we have or at the military at Pearl Harbor or the nearshore waters that's under military control. And they have been doing some activity, and I think we all read a couple of years ago, or last year, that they had damaged some of the corals because of their construction activity. My understanding is we have no control because the military tells us they'll continue with their contracts. And so with that said, can we do something like this with regards to having the military understand that there are areas in our lands, our oceans, that have this coral spawning events?
Let me defer to the agency first.
Yeah, I'll just clarify first for, for these events to protect coral spawning. DLNR doesn't actually have the authority to close the waters. It's usually closing parking access through the county or state parks during those spawning periods. So the waters are still open. It's just preventing access. So applying that to military, we don't have the authority to close the waters, but we could certainly try to work with them to see if they can do some of these voluntary closures during these events as well.
Okay, then I would think that any activity that's happening at, whether it's the new Kapalama in, down at the, or where they're doing their annual, I guess, the modernization that's going on at the piers, my understanding is with the military, who has the contract to do what they have, I guess, coordinated with the state, because that's our project. Now, do we have an idea? Could we have, as DLNR, and I would think with regards to checking to see when the next contract dates that Kapalama on the construction side ties in with the coral spawning periods.
Yeah, I
If you
just,
have advance notice.
I'd just say that DOT, who's leading the Kapalama
Right.
harbor expansion, they coordinate very closely with DLNR.
Okay.
So we are aware of all of their plans, and anytime corals are moved, we're a part of that. So we coordinate very closely with DOT. I think what you're referring to is Army Corps of Engineers
Right.
dredging project, where they inadvertently damaged some corals, and also were ready to destroy some corals that were in the path of the dredging project. So that was where we got into this issue with the federal government.
Very familiar with that. Okay, thank you. Thank you so much. All
Chair.
right. Yes, yes, Senator Richards?
Yeah, thank you. And I think this is probably for both of you. Makes a lot of sense, common sense, but then application is where it gets a little hesitant. It says certain locations, and you said the spawning is predictable. Are we talking like a week, a month, 6 months? What timeline are we talking about here?
Yeah, it's a matter of days. I'm trying to recall some of the closures. It may have been for a week at the longest. You recall, Ted?
Yes, I think it's a matter of days. I'm not sure whether it's 5 days or a week or what,
Okay.
but we're not talking months.
Just because, we have visitors that come to get into our ocean, we sure don't want to not let them get in when they get here. So, okay, thanks, Chair.
Thank you.
All right, thank you so much. Is anyone else here for comments with regards to the agencies? Okay, we did receive, let's see, 2, 4, 6 more support communications from individuals as well. Is there anyone else wishes to speak to both SCR 113 and SR 106? Hearing none, Chair, you're next.
Next and the last item on this agenda, the 1 o'clock agenda, is SCR 41 and SR 35, designating Hawaii's coral reefs as critical natural infrastructure and strongly supporting nature-based solutions such as coral reef restoration for risk reduction. First up is DLNR.
Aloha again, Brian Nielsen,
Aloha.
representing Department of Land and Natural Resources. We stand on our written testimony in strong support of this resolution. Thank you.
Thank you, Brian. Ted Boland from High Rock.
Thank you, Chair Gabbard, Chair Noe, Vice Chairs, members of the committee. Ted Boland for the Hawai'i Reef and Ocean Coalition, again in strong support. This is another measure that would help corals. In this case, the Federal Emergency Management Agency has hazard mitigation programs, and these recognize that corals can be a wave attenuating and shoreline protecting infrastructure. And so under the federal programs, there are activities and funding for things. So this declaration would put the state on record as being supportive of those kinds of measures, nature-based solutions, and would improve our position, I think, in terms of getting FEMA money for coral support. So that's the reason I support it on behalf of the Hawai'i Reef and Ocean Coalition. Thank you. Available for questions.
Oh, Ted.
Thank you.
The Environmental Caucus of the Democratic Party. In support. Fairwind Cruises. In support. Hawaii Wildlife Fund in support. Friends of Hanauma Bay in support. Nature Conservancy in support. And the following individuals are in support: Barbara Best, Douglas Perrine, Virginia Tincher, Carolyn Azelski, and Molly Whiteley. Anyone else wishing to testify on SCR 41? Members, any questions?
That's it.
Okay. Do you want to do
Yes.
something? You're ready to go?
We're ready on my side.
Okay.
Yeah.
You ready? We'll go right in, yeah. So we, chairs have conferred, and we will go right into decision-making on the 1 o'clock agenda, starting off with HB 441, appropriating funds for the development of a database and data portal relating to climate equity. The chair's recommendation for AEN will be to pass as is. Any discussion? Chair votes aye. Vice Chair.
Thank you, Chair. Chair votes aye. Vice Chair votes aye. Senator DeCoit?
Aye.
Senator Rhodes? Senator Alwa? Chair, you have 5 in favor. Motion is adopted.
Thank you, members.
Same recommendation for the Committee on Water and Land. Chair's recommendation is to pass HB 441 House Draft 1 as is. Any discussions? Hearing none. Vice Chair for the vote. Chair goes aye.
Okay, Chair recommendation to pass HB 441 HD1 as is. Chair votes aye. Vice Chair votes aye. Senator Chang. Aye. Senator McKelvey is excused. Senator Favela is excused. Madam Chair, recommendation is adopted. Oh. Oh no, we're not on the second bill yet.
Okay.
Yeah, we got your vote for ag. Yeah. Yeah, recommendation is adopted, Madam Chair.
Okay.
Thank you.
Moving on to HB 615 HD1 relating to restrictions on ag uses and activities. Let's see, 615. So yes, the chair's recommendation on 615 will be to pass as is. Any discussion, members? Chair votes aye. Vice Chair.
Thank you, Chair. Chair votes aye. Vice Chair votes aye. Senator DeCoit?
Aye.
Senator Rhodes? Aye. Senator Alwa? Aye. Chair, you have 5 in favor. Motion is adopted.
Thank you, members.
Chair's recommendation for the Committee on Water and Land, same recommendation to approve HB 615 House Draft 1 as is. Any discussions? Hearing none. Vice Chair for the vote. Chair goes aye.
Okay, of the 3 members present from Water and Land, any no votes, any votes with reservations? Hearing none, Madam Chair, recommendation is adopted.
Thank you.
Moving on to HB 837 HD1 relating to the state plan and having to do with green infrastructure. Let's see, 837. The chair's recommendation would be to pass with amendments. We'd like to adopt the request from OPSD to establish one exempt policy analyst position and an appropriation of $150,000 for salary and program funding to fulfill the components of the measure. Any discussion? Chair votes aye. Vice Chair.
Thank you, Chair. Chair votes aye. Vice Chair votes aye. Senator DeCoit?
Aye.
Senator Rhodes?
Aye.
Senator Alwa?
Aye.
You have 5 in favor. Motion is adopted.
Thank you, members.
For the Committee on Water and Land, same recommendation. Any discussions? Hearing none. Vice Chair for the vote. Chair goes aye.
Okay, Chair's recommendation is to pass HB 837 HD1 with amendments of the members present from Water and Land, noting 3 present. Any no votes, any votes with reservation? Hearing none, Madam Chair, recommendation is adopted.
Thank you.
Moving on to HB 995 HD2 relating to important ag lands. The chair's recommendation will be to pass as is. Any discussion? Chair votes aye.
Thank you, Chair. Chair votes aye. Vice Chair votes aye. Senator DeCoit?
Aye.
Senator Rhodes?
Aye.
Senator Alwa? Chair, you have 5 in favor. Motion is adopted.
Thank you, members.
Same recommendation for the Committee on Water and Land. Any discussions? Yes, Senator Elefante.
Yes, thank you, Madam
And we
Chair.
are on
995.
HB 995.
Yeah, I'll be voting with reservations, noting the testimony from the Land Use Commission and their concerns. Thank you.
Thank you. Having said that, Chair's recommendation is to pass. That was as is, yeah, Chair.
Yes.
Okay, hearing none, then Vice Chair for the vote, chair goes aye.
Okay, Chair's recommendation is to pass House Bill 995 HD2 as is of the 3 members present, noting the reservations from your Vice Chair. Any other further reservations or no votes? Hearing none, Madam Chair, recommendations adopted.
Okay, thank you.
Moving on to HB 1182 HD2, appropriating monies to the Department of Ag for an EIS to drill non-potable water wells. Let's see, 1182. Chair's recommendation will be to pass as is. Any discussion? Chair votes aye.
Thank you. Chair votes aye. Vice Chair votes aye. Senator Decoit.
Aye.
Senator Rhodes. Senator Alwa. 5 in favor. Motion is adopted.
Thank you, members.
For the Committee on Water and Land, just 1 second, Chair. Okay, thank you. For the Committee on Water and Land, Chair's recommendation is to pass this measure as is. Any discussions?
Sure.
Okay. Senator Elafante.
Yes, I appreciate the discussion and dialogue. I'll be voting no on this, noting the concerns from the Department of Agriculture. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. With that said, Chair's recommendation is to pass this measure as is. Chair goes aye.
Okay, Chair goes aye, Vice Chair goes no. Senator Chang.
Aye.
Madam Chair, recommendations adopted.
Okay, thank you.
You're right.
Okay. HB 952 relating to natural resources. Chair's recommendation is to pass this measure as is. Any discussions? Hearing none for the Committee on Water and Land, Chair goes aye.
Okay, Chair's recommendations to pass HB 952 HD1 as is of the 3 members present from Waterland. Any no votes or votes with reservations? Hearing none, Madam Chair, recommendations adopted.
And for AEN, same recommendation. Any discussion? Chair votes aye. Vice Chair?
Chair votes aye. Vice Chair votes aye. Senator Decoit.
Aye.
Senator Rhodes. Senator Alwa.
No.
Chair, you have 4 in favor. Motion is adopted.
Members?
Okay, thank you. This stormwater, we're going to get this instead of this one here is similar. Provides a no condition charge. That exceeds. Is that okay? Okay. Okay, Chair's recommendation on HB 1101 House Draft 1 relating to storm water fees. Chair's recommendation is to pass this with amendments, and we'd like to add that in section 5E, code provides that no county shall charge against or collect user fees from the Department of Transportation that exceeds $1.5 million in aggregate per year, and those were the recommendations from HDOT. Okay, any discussions? Hearing none for the Committee on Water and Land, Chair's recommendation to pass this measure with amendments. Okay, Vice Chair for the vote, Chair goes aye.
Okay, Chair votes aye, Vice Chair votes aye. Senator Chang. Aye. Senator McKelvey is excused. Senator Favela is excused. Madam Chair, your recommendation is adopted.
Same recommendation for AEN?
Chair?
Yes.
Before we go, I'm going to be voting with reservations on this because I am sensitive to the neighbor island or all counties and what they may have to manage going forward. So though I support the intent, it'd be with reservations so I get a better feeling.
All right. Chair votes aye. Vice Chair?
Thank you, Chair. Chair votes aye. Vice Chair votes with reservations. Senator Decoit.
Aye.
Senator Rhodes.
Aye.
Senator Alwa.
No.
Chair, you have 4 in favor. Motion is adopted.
Thank you, members.
Okay. Moving along to SCR 113 and SR 106. And this is urging the DLNR to minimize human interaction at certain locations during coral spawning events. Chair's recommendation is to pass the resolutions as is. Any discussions? Hearing none for the Committee on Water and Land, Vice Chair, for the vote, chair goes aye.
Okay, Chair's recommendations to pass as is SCR 113 and SR 106 of the 3 members present. Any no votes or votes with reservations? Hearing none, Madam Chair, recommendations adopted.
Thank you.
Same recommendation for AEN. Any discussion? Chair votes aye.
Chair votes aye, Vice Chair votes aye. Senator DeCoit?
Aye.
Senator Rhodes? Senator Elwha? Chair, you have 5 in favor. Motion is adopted.
Thank you, members. And then for the final measure, SCR 41 and SR 35. Having again to do with coral reefs, the chair's recommendation is to pass as is. Any discussion? Chair votes aye.
Thank you, Chair. Chair votes aye, Vice Chair votes aye. Senator DeCoit?
Aye.
Senator Rhodes? Senator Elwha? Chair, you have 5 in favor. Motion is adopted.
Thank you, members.
Okay, same recommendation for the Committee on Water and Land. Vice Chair, for the vote, chair goes aye.
Okay, of the 3 members present from Water and Land, any no votes or votes with reservations? Hearing none, Madam Chair, recommendations adopted.
And
Thank
that
you.
concludes the 1 o'clock joint. Thank you
Thank
very
you.
much.
Thank
Aloha.
you so much, AEN. And
Aloha, and we're gaveling in the 1:30 AEN agenda. We have one item on this agenda, a SCR 135, SR 217. In case we have some tech difficulties and we have to adjourn, we'll resume on Wednesday. Wait, today's Wednesday. On Friday at 1:30 p.m. So SCR 135, requesting the legislature to convene a working group with representation from all levels of government to develop a program to phase out the use of perfluoroalkyl and polyfluoroalkyl substance, PFAS, you guys all know this. PFAS in the state, okay. And first up is Hawaii Department of Health.
Good afternoon, members of the committee. Diana Felton, state toxicologist, Department of Health. We stand on our written testimony with comments, happy to answer any questions.
Okay, thank you. Melody Aduha from Environmental Caucus of the Democratic Party. Aloha, Melody.
Aloha. Good afternoon. Aloha Chair, Vice Chair, and members of the committee. My name is Melody Aduha. I'm co-chair of the Environmental Caucus of the Democratic Party of Hawaii. And mahalo to the chair for introducing this resolution for us. Now, PFAS is known as a liquid cancer, and it's also a forever chemical. It doesn't biodegrade. It takes about 700 to 1,000 years to do so. And it doesn't biodegrade under usual aerobic and anaerobic conditions. The EPA just came out with 6 enforceable standards. However, there are 12,000 different PFAS available, but there are 6 that they just came out with a maximum contaminant level. And this was just a little over a week ago, which means that their level would be 4 parts per trillion. Let me give you an example of what that is. That's like 4 drops of food coloring in 18 million gallons of water, or 4 drops in 20 Olympic-sized pools. Now, what does this cause? What does PFAS cause? It causes sporadic miscarriages, birth abnormalities, preterm deliveries, stillbirths, nervous system, developmental problems in children, including ADHD and autism. It also causes pancreatic cancer. And the National Institute of Environmental Health Sciences says that 0.1 part per trillion is what should be only allowed in drinking water, because there are lots of pancreatic tumors present in very, very low concentration of PFOA. Now, we know that Kunia Village's water has 27 parts per trillion, when the EPA said 4 parts per trillion is acceptable. We've got PFAS detect in Kunia, Waipio, Honolulu, Kahului airports, 8 Hawaii military sites, including the Navy's Pearl Harbor drinking water. We've got PFAS since the 1940s in Teflon pans, Scotchgard, food packaging, raincoats, furniture, cosmetics, clothing, dental floss, and AFFF with PFAS.
Melody, your time's up. Thank you. Thank you for your support. We do have your testimony. Mahalo.
Thank you very much. I should have timed myself.
Okay.
It has to go beyond, of course, the working group. There's a lot of considerations,
Thank
not
you.
just phasing it out, but remediation as well, and testing, blood testing. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Next is Gina Hara on Zoom. Gina?
My family is from Halava Valley. I've been volunteering for the Red Hill from 2014 and have been almost to every meeting on Red Hill. I'm coming today about PFAS. Okinawa has lost their aquifer recently due to PFAS. That means that they had a barbecue and by accident the Air Force Base released the concentrated PFAS, exactly the AFFF, just like it did on our aquifer. We are only finding out about it now because of the 1,500, and then a 1,300, and then another 5,000 leak. It is in the Halava water, so I posted behind me the water report for just one of the locations. Europe is going towards banning PFAS. And I see in the testifying that the chemical industry has already tried to say that it's essential, but it is an 8-chain carbon, so it will be like drinking a tire. And I have talked to every EPA person for Red Hill. None of them have seen dark waters. And also none of the people in Board of Department of Health has seen dark waters, which is 70,000 people were poisoned by DuPont consistently for 40 years, and they knew what they were doing. So it's a mandatory that a health official see dark waters, in my opinion. With the 30 seconds left, I'd like to say that remediation has come a long way with microorganisms, and that Hawaii should invest heavily in indigenous microorganisms, similar to Korean natural farming, where you attenuate indigenous microbes with those that can be eating the PFAS. So with 10 seconds left, I just want you to say you also need a protocol to get rid of the PFAS in the filters that we'll be using. Thank you for your time and your work.
Thank you very much, Gina. Anyone else wishing to testify on these two measures? Dave Mullenix?
Yes, hi.
Go ahead.
Thank you, Senator Gabbard, for putting this legislation forward. This is really essential. A PFAS working group is a brilliant idea. Thank you so much for hearing this resolution. I would just add that it would be nice to have a community group involved on the task force. I don't need to go over how terrible PFAS is. We all know that already. But it'd be great to have a community organization with the missions dedicated to the protection and restoration of the environment to be included in this work, in the PFAS working group. A group like the Sierra Club is very much involved in this issue and knows it very, very well. Anyway, once again, thank you so much for taking on this issue. It's a huge problem. It's going to get much worse. And I think this is a great step forward. We appreciate your efforts so much. Aloha.
Mahalo, Ted?
Thank you, Chair Gabbard, Vice Chair Richard, members of the committee. Ted Boland, on behalf of the Hawaii Reef and Ocean Coalition and the Climate Protectors Hawaii, in strong support of this measure. There's a lot we don't know about these two. I won't say their names in chemical because I've already embarrassed myself once on the record trying to pronounce them, but PFAS and PFOA are bad news. And we got to study them. A lot of work to do. As someone said, there are 1,200 of them. The EPA came out with standards of 6. The standards, by the way, are as low as can possibly be detected. They'd be even lower if they could detect better. So the 4 is because that's as low as it could go. So this needs to be studied, and this is a good measure, and I urge you to pass it and move it forward. Thank you very much for whoever introduced it and for the committee for hearing it.
Thank you, Ted. Anyone else wishing to testify on this measure? Members, any questions? Okay, we'll go right into decision-making on this, these two measures. Members, I obviously from the testimony and the spill up at Red Hill and just the current events, it's, the water testing that's going on, I think it's a critical issue. And I think it's, many times with working groups and task forces, you get get a lot of criticism actually because, oh, not another one. This is vital. And that the fact that this working group is forming it to develop a program to phase out the use of PFAS in the state. So the chair's recommendation would be to pass as is. Any discussion?
Yeah, Chair.
Yes.
Yeah, I'd like to echo something here, Chair. Yeah, as has been stated, and if you study enough, PFAS is ubiquitous in a lot of the things we use. And this has been something that's been kind of coming at us for a while. And I think the best way to start, even though I'm not wild about having another working group, I think this is the right thing because we have to figure it out. There's a lot of things that we glean from the use of it that are beneficial, but the chemical itself is problematic. So we got to figure that out. So I'm definitely going to support this. Thank you, Chair.
Okay. Anyone else? Chair votes aye. Vice Chair?
Thank you, Chair. Chair votes aye. Vice Chair votes aye. Senator DeQuoit?
Aye.
Senator Rhodes?
Aye.
Senator Awa?
Aye.
Chair, you have 5 in favor. Motion is adopted.
Thank you very much, members. And we have, it's okay, we'll just go right into our 131 agenda. We have decision making on HB 1359, HD2 on hemp. And thank you, members, for your patience in getting this. There's much discussion amongst some of the stakeholders, the Hemp Farmers Association, as well as the introducers of the bill from the Hawai'i Hemp Farmers Association. So the amendments that we want to add, basically it's adopting the language proposed by the Hawaii Hemp Farmers Association. It extends and adds new language to section 2 for the development of the task force. Requests an appropriation for the Department of Ag to hire a consultant to coordinate the efforts of the task force. Requests an island by island based infrastructure needs assessment for every sector of the hemp industry to facilitate the garnering of support from public and private partnerships, and requests access to capital for farmers. And by the way, I just wanted to add, this is in consultation with the CPN chair and their committee members. They'll be doing decision making on this, I guess tomorrow, right? Yeah. Also, deleting duplicate sampling and redundant inspections for transportation of hemp products. And then to add language from Senate Bill 516 regarding hemp product origin labeling that regulates the labeling of hemp content, lettering size, placement of lettering on hemp product packaging. Also removing the phrase other hemp plant material, quote unquote, that's in 2 on page 8, line 11. And then finally on page 9, line 16, adding 0.3% as the prescribed concentration of THC in finished hemp products. Any discussion?
Chair?
Yes.
Are you putting the buffer in there?
Oh,
as requested?
Thank you for bringing that up. On the buffer, what we decided, the chair, we wanted to leave that blank at this point. There was some discussion on, so we're going to leave it blank. There was not any finality between the 300 feet, 500 feet, so we'd like to leave it blank at this point. Did you have that?
I was hoping we had something in there.
Yeah, because it's not, yeah. It's blank in the bill, the current draft, House draft is blank. So we'll leave it and just let it be worked out in Congress. Okay.
I'm going to vote with reservations
Okay.
so we can get one buffer in there.
Okay.
Due to the concerns of
Sure.
my upcountry Maui residents.
Yep.
Thank you.
Okay. Chair votes aye. Vice Chair?
House Bill 1359, draft 2, passed with amendments. Chair votes aye. Vice Chair votes aye. Senator DeQuoit?
Reservations.
Reservations. Senator Rhodes? Aye. Senator Awa? Aye. Chair, you have 5 in favor. Motion is adopted.
Thank you, members, and that will adjourn the 131.